Good morning, everyone. This is Scott Oldendorf, Vice Chair. I'm subbing in today so our chair can go see family. Let's have a call to order. Jeanette?
All right. Alan. He is here. He raised his thumb. Anne Marie?
Here.
Asia?
Here.
Alejandra? Craig? Eric?
Here.
Kirsten?
Here.
Scott Oldendorf?
Here.
And did I miss anybody that I don't see online? Nope. Okay. We have a quorum.
Very good. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to see we're getting out of the virus situation. This is the largest crowd we've had here in person. So all of you people that didn't show up today, we get to eat your breakfast burritos. Let's see. Next, we're going to have the virtual meeting reminders. That is, please mute your microphones. This will help ensure there is no feedback or background noise that may interfere with the speaker. If a committee member would like to speak, ask a question, please use the raise your hand feature. Remember to lower your hand once your question has been answered and you have finished speaking. When you are ready to speak, please unmute your microphone. This is especially important during votes. Do not forget to mute your microphone when finished. As a reminder, audience members are only permitted to speak during the call to the audience unless called upon by the committee. This meeting is being recorded to satisfy the open meeting laws requirements. And guess what? We're all going to get some update on that today. Next on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. So all rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, for that. We have a call to the audience. Is there any comments during the call to the audience? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed with safety share. Does anyone have a safety share this morning? I'd like to probably jump in there. We're at the forefront of the Memorial Weekend. Please, everybody drive safe. Give yourself extra time to get wherever you're going to go. And if you just happen to be out in the Midwest, don't forget to dodge the tornadoes. Anybody else have a safety share?
I just add something, Scott. This past Saturday, we had a big shutdown at our Tres Rios facility, a planned maintenance effort that we did on Saturday to minimize disruptions to activities. And we had a lot of people come out, and basically we had to switch transformers. So it was almost a 5 to 6 hour electrical shutdown. Well, we did that work, and it went off extremely well. The group of all the people doing the work and the miscellaneous activities had met and planned out the shutdown and who was doing what and all the lockout, tag out, and many orchestrated activities that made for a successful maintenance and repair effort, but also more importantly, nobody was hurt. And so I'm adding that to the safety share.
That's excellent. Great. Does anybody else have any more safety shares? Okay. Well, Jackson, you did a great job on the safety share. You topped everybody. Okay. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Did everybody have a chance to review their minutes for April 25, 2024? Are there any? First of all, are there any corrections, amendments, anything like that on the minutes? Okay. We already had a motion to approve. Did I hear that?
Rick.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Second.
Came first.
I think it was
Okay.
Rob.
Okay, very good. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Abstains? Abstain. We have one abstain. Okay,
Gotcha.
two. Okay, very good. Okay, so the minutes for April 25, 2024 are so passed. And under our agenda for discussion action, we have our wonderful Jackson Jenkins, our director, to enlighten us on the updates. Jackson, it's all yours.
Thank you, Scott. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here and giving us your time, sharing your time with us. I'll start with a little bit of a CIP update. The first item is the Canoa Ranch project down south. We talked about it a few times, but I just thought I'd update you again. You know, this project started years ago. We tried to work with the developer back a number of years ago because they were putting a new water line in the frontage road, and we knew there would be a moratorium on that, you know, interfering with that road. So we tried to get them to put the sewer line in at that time, but, you know, they weren't at that point in their development effort or ready to move forward. So it didn't happen. And nonetheless, the water line did go in the road, and that caused us to look for alternative routes. So we started looking on the west side of the Interstate 19 there on that frontage road, and ran into some conservation land with the Canoa Ranch that the county has there. And that was going to add significant time to the project. And then ADOT had some requirements that they wanted us to follow if we use part of their right of way. So nonetheless, we said that's just going to be a problem for the time that it would take and the added cost. So we went to the east side of the interstate and went through a similar effort. And there, because of some technical, you know, some high walls that we got to go through and a few other obstacles, it made also for a very expensive project, way more than we had anticipated and initially thought. We just said, we're going to have to move away from that, and we'll just have the developer put in a pump station, which will serve their needs and will work for us. But we just couldn't see paying the price to put in a line at this outrageous cost and the estimates that we got. So just recently, we had another discussion with ADOT for another route. You know, I'll say it's like the median, but it's the median between, it's still on the east side of the interstate, but it's the median between the frontage road and the interstate. And that, so not the median between the north and southbound lanes of the interstate, but the median off the frontage road. And that one looks a lot less technical and a lot less obstacles. So we're waiting for final approval from ADOT. So we were ready to throw in the towel and go with the pump station option for the developer. But with this one last potential route, oh, on the west, that one's on the west then, I'm sorry. So now we are back on the west side, but it is that median between the frontage road and the Interstate 19 on the west side of the interstate. And so we're waiting for final okay from ADQ. And if that's the case, we believe the bids will come down significantly, but we'll still have to confirm that. And if they do, we'll be back on for putting in a pipeline over there. But stay tuned. This project that keeps giving, you know, we're going to maybe get it done one way or the other. But I think this is like our fifth engineering effort at a way to do it. And this hopefully will make the project move forward. If not, we will be going back to the pump station plan. So stay tuned, but that's the update there. Another one is the flood control district is going to be doing some cleanup and excavation and dredging, removal of materials out of the Santa Cruz River right next to our Roger Road facility. So they asked if they could dump any of their material on Roger Road site. because it's such a short haul, it will save them tremendous amount of money. And so we said yes, because again, at some point, we expect the, when we do ultimately demolish some of the old infrastructure there that's shut down and convert it into, some new, hopefully multi-use economic development and open space and wildlife corridors and other things, there will be a big need for fill material. So it's kind of a win-win for the flood control, for the short haul and the savings that brings. And for us, we get some free fill material that hopefully can be used for some of our future needs at that site. So just sharing that information. Sorry, Eric, I didn't notice your hand. Did you have a question back on the canoa one?
Okay, thank you. 2 points. Hey, it'd be great if you can get it in that median and that ADOT will approve that. If it has to go to a pump station, you're not going to plan on calling it a temporary, but call it a permanent solution?
That is correct.
Okay, because I know the water district had done a temporary booster station. That was 20 years ago. It's now permanent, and we've gone through and had to remodify. And I would hope the same thing would be the case with a lift station, that it would be basically called out as a permanent solution, because I would see an issue coming up down the road if and when you were able to ever put in that wastewater line south to Amato. Then you'd want to tie everybody into it, and there's a cost to that, and it's a cost that would be borne by the ratepayers and not by the developer because that had all been finished.
Yep. All good points. All right. I will move on to my third item on the CIP update, and that was the town of Sahuarita, who we have been working closely with on a potential partnership for a new water reclamation facility that we both own and have for our respective service areas. This town council there met last week, I think it was, or beginning of this week, just Monday, and they approved a contract and, to pursue this partnership. And we have a contract with Corollo to basically help work out the terms of the partnership. This hasn't anything to do technically with a new facility or that part of it. It's only to look at the, different case studies and benchmarks of partnerships and make sure both of our intentions and needs are worked out so we can have a legal agreement to partner on that facility. And so it was approved by the town council on Monday. And I think next week or in 2 weeks, it goes. June 4th, is it? On June 4th, it'll be on the county board's agenda for their consideration. And hopefully they'll pass it, and we will work out the nitty-gritty business relationship details of a potential joint venture or partnership on that effort. So that's all I got for CIP updates, but those are all things we've talked about. I'm just keeping you updated on those three. Yes, Alan.
That all sounds great. Kind of the first I've heard of. I guess I heard some rumblings, but it's good to hear that we're looking for regional type solutions out there. You may not be this far down the road, but I'm curious. You said a new facility, so it would be a brand new facility, not an upgrade of either or the other.
Yeah. So and it's really for growth. And so first off, our Green Valley plant is over 20 some years old, and we could start expanding and putting more money into it for rehab as we need to. But we thought, hey, because Sahuarita also has growth plans, we thought we already have property right near Old Nogales Highway and Pima Mine Road. So that's an ideal location for their area of operation and service, DMA and ours. And we would ultimately shut down Green Valley and put in an interceptor to flow to the new plant. And even further south is the Arivaca Junction, which was going to go to Green Valley. So if that gets connected, it will shut down and flow all the way. And even longer term, potentially, as growth comes east from Corona de Tucson and development puts in more interceptors, we could shut down Corona de Tucson. It would flow there too. So, and then if Sarita ever wanted to shut down their Rancho Sarita facility, they could do that as well. And, you know, we had early on, we had shared a concept with the Indian Nation there, and they have a little tiny facility at the casino there at Pima Line Road and I-19. So we haven't formalized anything, but potentially whatever their plans are, and for that facility, they could want to tie in as well. So it really would be a regional effort there. Yeah. All right. Okay, I always love to bring up safety, as you know, and one of the accolades for the department, you know, all of our business, as you very well know, is on a fiscal year basis. But in this case, you know, we report our safety incident rate because of OSHA requirements. We report that on a calendar year basis. But nonetheless, this is the first fiscal year, and I'm going to knock on wood and knock on my head, that we've had single digit reportable injuries. I mean, we're not done with the fiscal year. And even though, of course, we still will have to report on a calendar year, but this would be the first fiscal year also that we've had less than double digit incident rate. And we're currently sitting at 7 incidents for, you know, this point in May. So barring some crazy unforeseen issues, I would, you know, I'm not going to claim victory, but I will just say we're very proud of that final step improvement, because, you know, back in the day, 20 years ago when I joined, we were in the 30 to 40 reportable incidents every year. We've been down to the 10 to 12 range for the past 3 or 4 or more years, and we're just stuck there. And so we've been doing a lot of campaigning and, you know, refreshing everybody's commitment towards safety. And whether we're lucky or truly it's paying dividends, which I like to think is the outcome, we're at 7, which is really nice. And hopefully we stay that way. You know, I'm not sure what the calendar year amount is, but for the fiscal year, we're at 7 to date, and we only have just over a month to go. So stay tuned. Just wanted to share that. And unfortunately, the last accident, this is kind of our cliche safety slogan here. You know, it's safety is just like riding a bike. You know, you can't forget how safety works. But the last accident we had was somebody that hadn't ridden a bike in a long, long time. We had some bikes available at some of our facilities, and they were taking it, I think, to go get the mail. You know, a short ride, a little far to walk, but a short bicycle ride to get the mail. And I guess it is easy to forget how to ride a bike. So. But anyway,
Jackson, does that also include like any office incidents? Does that include your office staff? And like if somebody dropped a stapler on their foot or something, you know, silly like that, is that in those counts too? That's awesome then. Yeah.
That's right. So we're going to continue. That's our goal, is to get to 0. And it's nice to see a stepped improvement for the fiscal year. Hopefully we close out the year that way and it just continues in the right direction. So I just thought I'd add that in here. Next topic, I was going to just give you an update on the 48-inch pipeline that failed at the Tres Rios facility. I'm going to pull up
The first one.
yeah. So here's a picture of a 48-inch line. And as you look at that picture, you could see the corrosion on that 48-inch pipe that it's missing a lot of it. And that was a new pipeline installed in the 2013, you know, about 11 years ago when we did RUMP. That was, this pipe runs through the old high purity oxygen reaction vessel. I don't know, Jim, what is that, 1 million gallons or so in that vessel that it held in the old day? Oh, so it's a couple million gallons there? Yeah. So it's a big concrete vault that was right in the way of, you know, that's good real estate when you're putting new plants together. So as part of the project, we ran this brand new pipeline through the old shut down high purity oxygen reactor, and it flowed to the new facility or the new reactor, you know, the Barton flow system that we built right next door. And this was a mild steel pipeline with a concrete coating. And you can see what it looks like in less than, approximately 10 years. Let's see another picture. And I'm sorry, can you go back one? Is it possible to go back to that one? And you can't maybe tell the perception, but I don't know, Jim's lived here his whole life. What do you think the depth of that vessel is? 12 feet, 10 feet down to the bottom below that pipe?
The slab on top is probably 15 foot down to the slab on grade, but you have a headspace there, but you're probably about 9 or 10 foot with that.
Yeah, okay, so below that pipeline is, let's just say it's approximately 10 feet down to the bottom to the ground. And now go to the new slide. And there's just another picture, and go one more, the other one, that one right there. And here's another picture. It's a little harder to see, but you can see some flow going through the pipe. Luckily where it goes through where it exits the high purity oxygen reactor, the pipeline continuing on is in good shape. So it's continuing on its journey, kind of like it's going out a drain. But you can now see in this picture that level, that's sewage, influent sewage that came in and is leaked out of that pipe. Of course, some of it's still following the pipe, but now that solution level is up to the drain, up to the left that you can't see. And so sure, some flow's still in the pipe going that way, but the rest is just in the vessel going that way, acting as a drain and continuing on. So we're still able to process everything, but that's not how you want to do it. And that, you got septic conditions in there because you have such a large volume that's sitting there for so long. But at any rate, we've been trying to come up with the best plan for replacing that pipeline. And let's go one other picture, I think.
That one.
And this is the to the left there of looking at the picture. That's the to the left. That's where the primary separation takes place. And after some of the solids settle out, it goes through that 90-degree and into the pipe that it's attached to. That's the pipe that failed. But you can also see these 90-degree joints are also failing. If you look closely at that picture underneath or at the bottom of that 90-degree piece, you can see some flow, some influent draining or dripping out of that pipe. So really we have at best some Swiss cheese in there. And we're working with one of our job contractors to basically line that system. We're going to do a pump around when we go in and basically put a new internal pipe in there and hopefully get ourselves back into normal business. But just amazing that obviously it's, easy to tell that that was probably the wrong or poor choice of materials of construction to see that the corrosion that just ate up that pipe in such a short time. So, and it's not like you're going to see that because it's in a vault, it's underground with concrete lids over it. So we had to go remove some access manway type stuff to find out. In fact, we just got lucky when we found it. I think we pulled one of those because we were looking for something else. And somebody asked, why is there some water in the bottom of that tank? This tank has been empty for years now. And sure enough, as you went through it, you saw, oh boy, we have a mess on our hands.
So we corroded from the outside in or inside out? It's kind of hard to tell.
I don't know. Everybody could have their opinion, but we think that the concrete coating failed. And because of the turbulence of that influent coming in there, you got a lot of H2S gas, and it could have been both. I don't know what the environment in that HPO is, but for sure from the inside also, but maybe both. And it at that rate of corrosion in 10 years to eat through all that pipe and stuff.
It was kind of typical of inside H2. Yeah, because it failed on the crown. Yeah. Well,
and it could have been a lot worse because, when back in that first picture, go back to the first picture if you would, Jeanette, please. You could see that missing crown of that pipe, that top of the pipe is gone. So, some of them they've reached in or were able to pull some out because some of them curled over. And, very easily they could have broke off and blocked the drain. And then we would have really had a problem on our hands. Jim volunteered to go fishing in there if he needed to. But, so like I said, we're still operating not in an ideal way. And all of our attention is on fixing this system that never should have failed so quickly. But it did. That's the type of thing you run into.
guys expecting to fix it? Like, is it gonna take a while or not?
I'm not sure if Jaime or Jim, if either of you heard a date, but it's June. The biggest part was getting the materials here, getting everything we needed. Yeah. We initially were actually going to replace the whole thing with like high density polyethylene, but that was a tremendous long lead time item. So Plan B became this lining effort, like we do a lot of linings, and still takes
so
a little
you're
bit of
putting-
time to get everything you
You're
need.
putting something inside the broken pipe?
Yeah, it's like a sock. You push a sock
Like
through
you
the
hear on
line.
TV with
You-
their home
you-
plumbing?
Yeah, like you see on TV, same thing.
Yeah.
We do a lot of that in our conveyance line. That's how we
Okay.
repair cured in place pipe, CIPP,
Okay,
and that's what we're gonna be doing here. So wish us luck. We'll give you another update
so that,
sometime after.
is that
June.
a permanent fix or is that a temporary
No, it'll
fix?
be permanent.
It'll be permanent.
Yeah, those, when those CIPP, they're supposed to last for a long, long, long time. So I'm gonna say it's permanent, as
Mhm.
permanent is. It's like a permanent pump station, huh, Eric?
I have one question, before Eric, how did we discover that? You said we don't, with the material, it wasn't long enough for it to go bad. But shouldn't there be periodic checks to make sure
Yeah.
all things in our plants are okay?
I would say it's probably pretty regular that we find areas in the plant that have severe corrosion. Of course, we work in a very corrosive environment.
Yeah.
And it's just the fact that some of these places are seldom seen by mankind, they were really closed in systems. And, I remember one was on when we were looking at our Archimedes screws, over at the headwork side at the front end of the plant. Again, doing some screw work, we saw some damage to the screws, but somebody was able to get in there to get a closer look, and with their flashlight, they're looking at, hey, look at all the, all the rebars exposed on the concrete, and, just horrible corrosion. So sometimes it's by luck and by golly, but because we do find these things, we try to look, any chance we have something open, we look around, but it's not like it's easy to get somewhere to go do a close inspection. So yeah, I'm going to say it's the by luck and by golly method. But of course, if something that, if we never even noticed this, eventually, we would have had more odors. We would have had something that would have indicated, or worst case, if something failed and blocked off the drain, so to speak, we would have been wondering, hey, where'd the flow go? So, we are aware of these type things happening. So we definitely, when we do our maintenance and our work, we're always looking for corrosion and things like that. But there's just places you may never get, for as long as the plant's around.
Just don't want to have a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Eric, you have a call, you have a question for, JJ?
Yeah, this is obviously an unanticipated issue. And therefore, the funds to make the correction are coming out of what part of our budget?
Yeah, so in this case, just what you saw there, believe it or not, is about a $2 million repair. That's an early estimate, not counting some other things we may do. And so we took it from our CIP, our capital funding, and moved it in to allow us to spend it in our operations and maintenance expense. So we have to be creative and move monies around wherever possible. Plus, we have other inflationary pressures on our O&M budget. So this has been a very tough year for us compared to all the other years. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to add, as you're doing your planning and your expenses, it was nice. Tres Rios, for the most part, I mean, it was a 1977 vintage facility that we upgraded in 2013 to the new stuff that we have, but we used a lot of the old infrastructure. And one part of the facility was the original 4 digesters. They went in, whatever year, Jim, did the digesters go in?
2 in the 77, 2 in the
77 and 89. So you got a 4-pack of digesters that are definitely long in the tooth, so to speak. And we are starting to see more issues with corrosion. And in fact, we're having to do an emergency roof repair or replacement on one of them. And we put in the budget When we built Rump, we built 2 brand new digesters. In fact, they're a little bit larger than the old 4, but we're going to put in a 3rd new digester. And, you know, not that the 2 new ones are new anymore, but we're going to put in another new digester. And that will allow us to take some load off of the 4, you know, take some out of service to do a rehab effort. Because right now, we have just enough to kind of keep up with our production levels with 1 out of service for cleaning and normal maintenance. But if you wanted to take 1 out longer term for a rehab effort, you definitely will need another digester. So we put another digester in the budget for that. And again, it's just because we're seeing the signs of wear and tear on the facility. And your crystal ball never tells you, well, on this date in the future, it'll be over. You just have to, you know, try to do your best to do observation and regular maintenance and fit it in when you know something's coming up. But if we had to just plan and put a bucket of money for things that could happen, we'd have a huge budget. So we have to carefully manage that and look at how we move forward with things. Alan?
Yeah, you mentioned adding another digester, and way back when my memory's not as good as it used to be, but I recall you left provision for additional, so it's not like a whole brand new, it's just adding another.
Yeah, so
Time.
you have the original 4-pack of digesters, and then we built 2 new ones for 6 total. But at one day we envisioned it could be another 4-pack, so we could have 8 there. But right now it's just 2. And there was a lot of discussion in Rump that maybe we should put in 3 new ones, but we held off, saved some money. But now just that digester, because a lot of the controls or the shared infrastructure, it's still like a $21 to $25 million investment. So it's not cheap for a lot of steel and concrete there.
Very good. Thank you, Jackson, for the update. Does anybody have any additional questions online
do
or
have-
right here?
Well, that's the next item. So
Yeah, that's
I'm
the
up
next
again,
item.
but
Yes, you'll be up again.
Yeah.
So does anybody have, for the update section, additional questions for Jackson? Anybody here? Okay. Okay, Jackson, I guess you did a good job on the update. Now let's know about the personnel.
Okay, so personnel and key performance indicators, I just threw that as another topic of interest. In fact, you'll see when I go through some Power BI slides, some of our KPI tracking, some of our human resource statistics, but we're running, you know, in the mid to upper 30 people vacancy. You know, we're a department of almost 400 employees, and I think we're maybe at 38 right now vacancies. And every time, you know, we fill a vacancy, we think, okay, we're going to head down to 15 or 20 vacancies, but some of those vacancies you fill are promotions, and so it's a neutral change. You may have filled one vacancy, but you created another, so you're spinning your wheels in that regard. But it's great from a, you know, a career path opportunity for your employees to do that. But we still do bring in, you know, out of the more than 100 vacancies we fill each year, which is a huge number for a department of 400, about half of them are promotions, and the other half are people we steal from other utilities like Tucson Water or something. No, I'm just kidding. They steal from us. That's what it is. But, you know, we're fortunate to, you know, the county went through, we've talked about kind of their effort at revamping the compensation protocols and how we do our business and trying to make our wage structure more competitive with the market. And I think early signs of success are we seem to have more applicants for our positions that we do post. So that's one indicator, but we still are struggling filling some, and we still have people that get offered positions in the county. Some, even though they went through the whole process, they turned down the offer because it wasn't enough money for them as much as they were expecting or wanting, or compared to where we're maybe stealing them from, so to speak. So it's this issue we're going to have to continue to fight with. But I just want this group to remember or recall that I think it was 2007-8 budget maybe was the highest staffing we had as a department. We were almost at 600 employees at that time. And from that point on, we've gone through very intense efforts at, right sizing and making our organization more efficient, and other things happened as well. But we've gone from almost 600 employees to down to 400 employees in that, 15-year time frame, which I think is phenomenal. But still, I'm worried because there is a policy by the board out there that any vacancy that is over like 8 months, I think it's 240 days, has the potential of being taken from a department. And you think, well, if you didn't need it for 8 months, well, maybe you didn't need it at all. But most of the ones in our case, we're paying contractors at a higher rate of pay. We're doing things less efficient, or, because of some of these missing positions, the vacancies, and we just hope they don't get swept. And it's just a frustration I have to deal with. And there's opportunities to go explain why that position is important, but nonetheless, it's something we have to deal with. Besides all the other battles, we have to make sure that we're trying to fill. I mean, we try to fill vacancies continually. We never stop. And we have about, I'll show you one slide that shows how long it takes to fill a vacancy. So this is just something I just wanted you all to be aware of. Anne Marie?
Anne Marie, you're
Anne
muted.
Marie,
Sorry, thanks for discussing this. It's something, I've been concerned about because over the years I've seen the positions go further and further and lower. And I think eventually you reach a point where you just can't cut positions anymore. And I understand the difficulty of filling some of these positions. Even at our little small nonprofit, we have positions that we just can't fill right now, but we need them and we want to fill them. And I don't know if this is something the committee could do here, is just even write a letter to the county manager saying that we, support the department, and that we would hope that basically none of their vacant positions get swept. Okay, that we believe that the department is right sized at this moment, and that we would hope that there be a thorough review before any of the vacant positions would be taken away or swept away. Because I feel at this point, you guys are pretty much have eliminated the positions. I remember all of them over the years looking and what you guys have done, and I feel you're pretty right sized right now. And I just know it's difficult to fill positions. So I would really hate to see these vacant positions taken away because you can't get them filled. So I'm just throwing that out there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks for that comment, Anne Marie. And I should add too, we've made that improvements from 600 to 400 just for rounding off numbers over the many years for various reasons. But at the same time, every year we add additional infrastructure to our system. Every year we take on new conveyance systems from developers, and so our miles of pipelines continues to grow. And every year we also add stuff to our treatment process to be more sustainable, to be more efficient. We put in a biogas plant, a gas cleaning plant that generates over $4 million in revenue. We put in a new recess system. I mean, we continually add things and have them in our budget, but we're not asking for more people. So while we may be holding steady at that around that 400 number, it's all while we're still adding stuff to our system where, people are kind of saying, hey, we need more people to keep track of this. So trying to keep morale up and not overload people on overtime and make sure that we can recruit. They're all continual challenges that we face, and I'm sure many departments and other entities face, but I just wanted to stress it in here. And, Anne Marie, you were spot on with your comments. So I'm more than happy to talk about this topic in the future as we go. But just wanted to share that. And if I could, real quick, let me just jump into some Power BI. We've done a Power BI presentation to the committee before, but Power BI is a Microsoft software that we've adopted. And it takes, I don't know, Belinda Gamboa Felix is here in this room. She's been our lead on making that happen. She's taken it, and she's had a lot of help and partners from ITD and that's it. the data governance group, and we've used some contract help, but we basically pull in, what, 7 or 8 databases or 12. So, you know, there's information, or I should say there's data all over the place, but of course, they're not used to talking to one another and putting everything in front of our staff to make real-time decisions. So this Power BI that we've been transitioning into, it is so laden with taking data and making valuable information out of it. It's amazing. And we use it every month as we go through our key performance indicators. It's phenomenal, the information that's out there, the discussions we have, the decisions we make, and the ability to peel back the onion very quickly and get some behind the scenes information. So I just kind of, you know, it's not my intention to go back through a Power BI presentation. We can always do an update in the future based on interest, but I'll have to give kudos to Belinda, because we've been telling the world about how far we've brought this effort and what it's done for our organization. And I was at a recent conference, the AZ Water Conference in Phoenix this year, and Belinda's presentation on this topic is like all over the country. People are stealing her slides to show what can be done, and she's like very sought after. So we found a place to chain her to a desk so she can't be taken from us. But it's a very interesting topic that I'm sure you guys will want to hear more about in the future. But let's go to another slide. That was just a summary page, but let me get into a couple. Like here's one. The next one is turnover trends. So you have
They're coming.
turnover trend.
I'm getting.
I'm glad you're driving. Belinda's over there like, what's taking you guys so long? Okay, so this is slide, and it's kind of small to read, but I just want you to we look at this. We look at this statistic every day, and every month when we have our KPI meetings, and it tells us how many vacancies we have, where they are. It tells us, in fact, let's go to, because it's cut off at the bottom, I think. It's the bottom.
It's
Visible on that one.
It's growing. There we
I
go.
don't see it, but it's after laterals. Oh, I guess that's where that one ends. But let me go to the next slide. Go to days to fill. We also look at the days to fill vacancies, and the blue boxes that are like in the middle of the bar chart. It's hard to see. You can move that cursor so it's off. Yeah, bigger.
It won't go.
So you can see, you know, we like to be less than 90 days to fill a vacancy, but you could see how right now we're over 100, and the last data point there is 184 days to fill a vacancy. That right there is 6 months. So that's how long it takes to fill our vacancies on average. And so if you have 8 months, you're going to have positions potentially taken from you. It just really puts us into some very challenging conflicts. So just information, but if you scroll down below or go down the slide to this area down here.
Got it.
So if you look at the very bottom right in a light blue color below the cursor, or right there, that's it. This year, of course, we're only through April data, and we've filled 80 vacancies so far this year. We've been typically, we used to be in the 80-ish range years ago, but you know, with less people even, we always now have been over 100, and I expect this year we'll finish over 100 or very close to 100 when we get the last 2 months in. But that's just a lot of positions that get filled every year, and I just wanted to show that and the ebb and flow of our hiring. And besides trying to run the utility, we have continual turnover and continual new faces. And I was looking at, like, you know, historically when we would do, I guess, statistical analysis of stuff, especially just on hiring and whatnot, we would have, I think our average age of our workforce was just over 50 years old. And I can't remember if it was 13 or 17 years was the average years of service. So, you know, we had a bunch of long-term employees in the organization, but now I can't tell you, I bet you close to half of our organization has been hired in the last 4 or 5 years. So a big shift, you know, well, maybe we're getting younger demographics. I haven't done that demographic, but definitely looking at my data sheets, you see people all their higher dates are in the 2020 something, 2021, 2022, and a whole bunch new ones. And I'm like, why can't I remember everyone's name? And now I know it's because it turns over too fast. So just things that we as an organization and as a county have to deal with. And I think we're taking the right steps to get there, but it's a very painful process as we go through that. All right, let's go to, is that the next one?
SSOs?
Oh, SSOs. Again, just to kind of refresh your memory on, so we track how many sewer overflows we have each month. And back when I started 20 years ago, we used to have over 200 issues, but with implementation of our area ROD program for maintenance, where we go through and clean every sewer line on a regular basis, and our fogged fats, oils, and grease campaign, where we remind people not to pour grease down the drain, and our IWC inspections on people and some of the things they dump. You know, we still get some vandalism, or you still get some rogue contractor that dumps something down the sewer. But our spills, our overflows have gone from over 200 regularly to less than 30. And this year, right here, what are we at for total here? 16. You know, we're well into the year, and I think that total is like 16, which is phenomenal. And there's a number, I think Jaime can refresh my memory. It's like what, 4.5 overflows per 100 miles or something. So they would expect us to have maybe not 200, but close to be similar statistically when you measure against other sewer utilities. But we're so far below that, which is great. You know, that's the last thing you want is an overflow. Part of our mission is to protect the public health. And if you don't have overflows, you're doing a good job at it. But it's part of our cost structure and how we run this utility. And I just thought this is a cool slide to see. And I believe you can also dive in and see, you know, besides the color coding that tells you what type of spill it was, or, you know, what the root cause, whether it was a vandalism or whether it was, oh, you got a breakdown of it?
It's coming. This is the last one.
Oh, so it was real easy just to pull up the last spill, and this shows where it was, what happened, what went on, and we could do that for all 16, or we can go back in time and do it for the ones from years ago. But it's just so much information that helps us plan our business and what we're going to do. I just wanted to show that one as well. Let's go on. What's the next one? Is it this one?
Energy.
Oh, energy. Here's one I just thought was a cool highlight. I'm going to use a pointer to show you as we look at electricity. So here we go. As we look at electricity, you can see that, well, let's start with this one. This is here's the amount of electricity. The dark blue bars are for this year, this fiscal year in 2024. And you could see we're using less. This is the use and this is the dollars. So you could see we're using less electricity than the previous 2 years, but we're spending more. And part of that is because the unit cost of electricity, and part of it's because of the demand charge. But we're being very efficient in what we're doing, but hey, our costs are going up. And so, you know, people's initial response is, hey, why are your costs going up? What are you doing? Well, guess what? Here's what we're doing. But this is still reality. This is the inflation and those type of impacts on our business. So, you know, we look at those every month. We talk about them, but I just wanted to remind you that these are tools that we use. Then the others are, this is just another summary slide that we look at. And this is through what, May? Yes. So you can see this is the fiscal year, started July 1st and through May, where we should be, is that where we should be at about 90%? Is that right, Belinda, or 80 some percent? Oh, no, I'm talking, what should we be for 9 or?
This is the full budget, and this is where we're at.
The entire budget?
Yeah. Well, my point is, you know, we're not quite 11 months through the budget. And this shows us, like, for this one here.
That's where we're at, 85.5%.
Oh, that's where we're at, 85.5% of our budget right now. But you can go look at, here's one biogas revenues. We're 117.8% of our budget. We budgeted, let's see, 3 million, and we've already received 3.5 million in revenues for selling our biogas. And the year's not over. We're here. This was our, I'm trying to find, is that?
O&M.
Oh, sorry, I'm struggling here going through it. Our O&M, we've spent a little over 82, almost 83 million. And so we're 82.6% of our budget. CIP, we'll go through, scroll down. I want to get to the chemicals and some of those others. Ones that, I already talked about energy, but you could see some of these were over on chemicals, we're over on electricity. And I showed you the slide, we're using less electricity, but we're paying more because of inflation. And that's the same with chemicals. And instead of being at that 85 or so percent, you can see we're over into the 90s on expenditure. And so that's what we're dealing with in reality with inflation. And this is just one of the many slides that we look at every month and talk about them individually. And you can dive into the chemicals and look at every single chemical we use, what the budget was, what we spent, what the unit price is. So we have some very entertaining and helpful conversations each month. And let's start.
That's chemicals.
Oh, there's a dive into chemicals, and you can see across the top of the slide. Again, they're very busy slides, but here where the pointer is, if you see that, these are the different chemicals we use, and they're color coded, and that's what the bar graph represents. So again, I'm not going to get into it too much depth, but I just wanted you to see the magnitude and scope of how we talk about our business every month.
Okay.
And that it was there one more
If you want to do that one, yeah.
And then just my last one, just because I always like this slide. This is just a budget depiction of where our funds are budgeted. Of course, the biggest one, almost 35 million, is for wages and benefits, the employee costs of doing our business. Then here, the orange is the next busiest one, and that's the cost for billing, to send bills to our customers, and for Jacobs to run the Agua Nueva plant. Those are the two biggest costs in this one. And then here's repairs and maintenance, a bunch of categories to get to other. There's energy, chemicals, county overhead, IT, capital. They get smaller as you go. But just always an interesting slide to see what the distribution of costs is in running this utility. So with that, I talked too much, but I'm open for questions. That was all I had. Alan.
This is a great slide. It kind of tells you everything right there, but I was just thinking back, 20 years ago or whatever. Usually the big two were, again, employees, costs, and energy. But even though your energy costs are going up, it's still down the list.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I think that's a real testament to how you guys have been moving over the last 20 years. So,
Yeah, and personnel used to be just over 40% of our cost back many years ago. And here you can see it's 34, so.
Are there any more questions for Jackson? Jackson, that was excellent. Really, the charts really help out. Okay, since we have no other additional questions, now we're going to jump into the open meeting law with Bobby Yu and Cindy Nguyen, and I hope I pronounced everyone's last name correctly. They are from our Pima County Attorney's Office. So, Bobby, Cindy, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you. I'm Bobby Yu from the County Attorney's Office. Remotely, Cindy Nguyen from our office is on. Cindy, if you want to chime in on anything or even do the whole presentation, feel free. But I'm going to go and really do a quick summary of it because I know we don't have a lot of time. There is a presentation and you can kind of delve into some of the details. So essentially, it's a sunshine law under state. It is state law. The idea is that they want open government to open government business to public scrutiny and prevent secret decision-making. That's the entire basis for the open meeting law. The state legislature does make revisions to it every few years or so, but for the most part, it's going to be consistent. They only make very slight changes over time. Meetings shall be open to the public. Meetings such as this have to be public. Anyone can attend. Anyone can listen to deliberations and proceedings. All legal action, and what that means is collective decision-making, that must occur in a public meeting. On the staff side, the staff is going to help with providing proper notice and agendizing things, basically to a point where it is sufficient to convey what will occur at the meeting. And in terms of how this court is going to interpret it, they're going to interpret the open meeting law in favor of open and public meetings. Who must comply? A lot of bodies really must comply, but really we're looking at, for our purposes, the advisory committee is one of the members, public bodies that must comply with open meeting law. The definition of an advisory committee is officially established by order of the public body. This advisory committee was established by the Board of Supervisors, and with the purpose of making a recommendation for some type of action. So I'll slow down a little bit here because we're going to go into what is a meeting. A meeting is any gathering of a quorum in person or through technological devices, or both, as this meeting is, at which legal action is proposed, discussed, deliberated, or taken. And I'm going to spend a little more time on really those first few points, because it's not just the final action, it's also the discussion beforehand. Quorum is going to mean a majority of a board or commission. In this case, really, we're looking at 7 of 13 committee members being the majority of the commission. But it's going to vary based on the public body involved. In the case of 5, it would be 3. The legal action is defined by state law. It is a collective decision, commitment, or promise made by a public body pursuant to, in the case of this, it would really be the bylaws of the committee. Meeting includes, in the era of the internet, of meetings on Teams, it is going to include electronic communications among a quorum of the members. So think that majority of a public body that involves a discussion, deliberation, or the taking of legal action by the public body regarding really any matter that's likely to come before the public body for action. Now, there's some trickiness with what a meeting can be. It can be it could be a one-way electronic communication by a member that is sent to a majority, to a quorum of the members of a public body that proposes legal action. Say there's some kind of agenda item that could come up, and a majority are communicating through an email chain saying we should support this. And it could really be a one-way communication that goes to basically a quorum of the members. That is something that the Attorney General would have some concern about. There is an exception in relation to communications with the media. If it's something to the media and it's not really directed at another member and there's no concerted plan to engage in deliberating about that action, there is a First Amendment right to express an opinion to the media. Open meeting law requirements really go through, and this I suppose is more on the staff side, notice, agenda, public attendance, and meeting minutes. So that's where staff will assist the advisory committee with posting in terms of where the meeting is going to be, how it can be accessed electronically, notices on the website, and if there's any additional public notice that's needed, that's how it would be done. It's got to be at least 24 hours prior to the start of the meeting. I know Wastewater has been very good at doing it well before that point. It's available to members of the public and the general public. And there are certain exceptions that don't happen too often, but can come up. The notice of meetings will include name of the committee, date, time, place, and also, most importantly, the agenda in terms of what topics are covered. Notice has gotten a little bit more nuanced since 2020, but as long as there is an ability for someone to attend remotely, if it's not possible to do so in person, that's really what the Attorney General opinion here relates to. The agendas themselves, as wastewater has been very comprehensive in doing, lists specific matters to be discussed, considered, or decided, provides information that's reasonably necessary to inform the public and members as to what can be discussed so they can decide, do I want to attend this meeting and listen in? Committee members can really discuss, consider, or make decisions only on things listed on the agenda or matters that are really quite related to things on the agenda. And there are certain things with pitfalls I'm not going to go into specifically here, but can be useful to go into from a staff perspective in terms of current events as well as how specific things need to be. Going into the public attendance requirement, but the public has the right to attend, listen, tape record, video tape as well. In the case of this committee, there is a call to the audience at the end so they can speak. Under state law, that is not a requirement. I'm gonna kind of go through this a little quicker and go really over to the call to the public. The key thing to note is we can't prevent anyone from speaking based on viewpoint. So as long as there are any restrictions based on time, based on place, that is okay. But if someone has an opinion on something and it is a view that is favored, if there is a viewpoint that is presented by someone else against that, they should be able to do so as well. And at the end of the call to the audience, if there's something that is discussed, a member can instruct staff to study the matter raised by someone at the call to the audience, place the matter on a future agenda, or respond to a personal criticism. And I just have this in here in terms of the letter as a reference point. Executive sessions are closed sessions to the public. There are not a lot of exceptions under state law in terms of conducting business in private, and I've listed them here. They're not going to come up too often. But when there is an executive session, there are only certain people that are really allowed to be part of that discussion. Minutes are going to be kept by staff and made available to the public. It's the exact timeframes will vary based on what it is. For an advisory committee, that's generally can be 10 days. But ultimately, the public has to be able to access any recording or minutes of a meeting. And there are some specifics in terms of what is in those minutes: date, time, and place, members, this general description of what matters were discussed or considered, and really a sense of what was discussed and how every member voted. Going in open meeting pitfalls, we'll go through these quickly as well. I mentioned the email chain issue where basically one member makes a statement to another and then it ends up getting disseminated to a quorum. That ends up being an issue, and there could be a violation of the open meeting law. And the other thing is something called polling or splintering the quorum, as the Attorney General's office has opined. Basically, if there is polling outside of a meeting, in terms of what the action is going to be beforehand, well, that discussion would have been outside the purview of what the public was able to listen to, and that could be an open meeting law issue. Member can't use staff to circumvent open meeting law, so the committee should be careful with communicating information to staff by saying, oh, can you share this with everyone on this agenda topic? Online, it's a violation of the open meeting law to conduct discussions and or deliberations. And this could even be an issue if it's less than the quorum, if really the purpose is to circumvent the purposes of the open meeting law. A little bit on email, but kind of the same idea with that. Be aware of reply all. That would be a way to avoid potential issues with open meeting law. If there's a quorum of members at a social gathering, just be careful not to discuss things that could come before the public body. Kept some notes in for ratifications. The big thing with the open meeting law is it could go to court. And a member of the public, the AG, or the county attorney's office can bring a lawsuit for an open meeting law violation. And there can be penalties, there could be fines. And that would be something the court would ask the individual member to pay as part of the case. And it could get all the way up to removal from office, but that's just something to be aware of, that that is something that the county would not be able to pay for a member. Bottom line, focusing on transparency is going to keep you out of trouble, and it also builds public trust in what you do. If you have any, I guess, anything you want to follow up on, check out the presentation. There's also a link here in the presentation to the clerk of the board website. There's the Arizona Attorney General Agency Handbook that Wastewater sent out before this meeting as well. And that's kind of the quick summary of open meeting law.
Bobby, just have a question. So taking all this into context, the key word is quorum. So if you have less than a quorum, you can be a normal human being, you can have normal conversations and all that other stuff. But if you raise to the level of a quorum, then you got to be on your guard.
That's correct.
Okay, very good. So everybody, it's quorum.
I think the sticky part there, though, is the email communication. If 3 of you have an email and that continues to get shared, maybe you didn't have a quorum at one time within one email, but enough people have seen and viewed and commented on the email that you now have a quorum among the discussion. And maybe those emails were forwarded 3 weeks later, but
So how do people protect themselves from that? Because, you know, they do something way before, it wasn't a quorum, but how did they avoid the trap of being into a quorum later on with, like he said, the emails?
I would suggest talking to the other member and making sure that you're on the same page in terms of not having that conversation go to other members.
Boy, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Are there any additional questions for Bobby on the open meeting laws? Okay, hearing no additional questions, we'll move next on the agenda to the fiscal year 2023-24 period of the expense and revenue summary. Mandy, she's going to be subbing in. Mandy, it's all yours.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So we are on period 10. We closed out period 10 in April. So this is what it is starting to look like. As we've talked about before, and Jackson had spoke about this in the beginning of the meeting, there is a significant overage here in the supplies and services. So we're forecasting to be about $4.6 million over budget. The main drivers of that is chemicals. That's about $1 million of that overage. Electricity is approximately 700,000 of that overage, and waste disposal is about 600,000. So there are other driving factors that are going on here. The department has opted to use some of the vacancy savings and moving it down to the supplies and services, which you would see in the revised budget. Here we're only showing the adopted budget, but there are revisions to the adopted budget as we go through the fiscal year. The department is working proactively and trying to figure out how to pay for those overages. There is some variances in the debt service, as noted in note 2, due to the 2023 issuance. There is a slight under forecasted amount in sewer user fees by approximately 2.8 million. That is more than made up for in some of the other areas. Utility fees is up by approximately 2 million. Biogas revenue is up by approximately 1 million based on our current projections. And then other revenue is also forecasted to be up. The main driver of that is higher interest rates than what we budgeted when we budgeted fiscal year 24, quite a long time ago now. So overall, the department is shaping up to have a total revenue impact of 13.6 million over the adopted budget. Are there any questions related to the monthly summary? Okay, great. Well, hearing none, we will see you again after period 11.
Andy, appreciate that. Next on the agenda is going to be the financial subcommittee report with Matt Matheson.
That's
Oh, he's not here?
nope, he's not.
Okay. Does anybody I understand Matt's not online right now. Anybody have a report for the financial subcommittee? Okay, I guess we'll have to pass that one over.
Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, I sit on the committee and have not met since February. We're planning to meet later this summer to have some discussions about what came out of that last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that. Any additional comments on the financial subcommittee? Okay, thank you, Eric. We appreciate that. Next on the agenda is going to be the CIP subcommittee report with Asia. Asia, it's all yours.
Thank you. Yeah, the CIP subcommittee did have a meeting, and Anne-Marie was able to chair that meeting. I did attend, but thank you, Anne-Marie, for taking over the chair activities. We reviewed the 5-year CIP, the county's integrated infrastructure plan and comprehensive plans, and talked about projects and programs that overlap between the county and other departments, as well as that review of the, independently sort of looking at the wastewater's 5-year CIP. We, as you heard earlier in the agenda, too, obviously, Jackson typically gives updates on things that are happening with the CIP and that are relevant. At our committee meeting, we determined that we would be able to keep to our normal schedule based on the presentations of the 5-year CIP and the longer term plans. We all thought that they were really good presentations and gave us some good insight into the things that do have connect, like the Kanoa project, which there are some other county things that are going on, right, that are related to that, and things like roadway projects that are often planned, and it's important to kind of coordinate on things like that with the wastewater. But like I said, we determined that we would stick to our normal schedule, which would be meeting again in about January, looking at the next round of putting together the 2026 CIP. So we aren't planning on having any meetings between now and then, but getting those regular updates in the committee and the full committee meetings. So I don't know if Anne-Marie or anybody else on the committee wants to add to that. I think Anne-Marie does.
Yeah,
Sure, thanks for giving that update, Asia. Just a couple things that I was going to add. Interesting enough, Jackson gave an update on the plant proposed facility with Sarita. And when we reviewed the 5-year plan, the total cost for that plant is actually in the budget right now. And when we asked about that, we said it's because those negotiations are ongoing. So if you look at the 5-year CIP budget, it has the total cost of that facility. But as I'm really glad to hear, Jackson, that that's moving forward, because eventually, once it's figured out how much Sarita will be paying for that facility, that the total cost won't be bared by the county. But right now, the total cost is in the budget. A couple other things is we reviewed the 10-year infrastructure plan, and I know I was confused at first looking at the budget, because anything that's already in the Pima or in the wastewater budget isn't included in the 10-year infrastructure plan. So like the new facility isn't in there, and this was explained to us a couple times. So if you look at the proposed things that are already in the budget, oh, sorry, let me turn that off. Sorry. Okay, aren't in there. And so that was kind of confusing for us, because a major infrastructure project isn't shown in the 10-year infrastructure plan because it's already been in the budget. And then the third thing I found really interesting was Pima Prospers gave us a presentation on where projected growth in the number of homes, and if the capacity is already there. And one of the big areas for growth is the proposing with the 20,000 new homes kind of around the old Spanish Trail Vale area. But yet there is already that line there that can probably pick those up. And then, as you would expect, the other growth was in the Marana area, but also Corona de Tucson. So that was actually a very interesting presentation to see where the growth is going to be and how that's going to impact the facility. And in most cases, the department's been, in a sense, anticipating, so a lot of the capacity is already there. But it was a very interesting meeting, and as Asia said, during the summer we look at 5-year, and then we looked at 10-year and planning. So we got some excellent presentations this summer. So thank you, everybody, for that. Oops, I meant to lower my hand, sorry.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Anybody have additional questions for Asia for the CIP? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Just a moment. Oh, that's the one subbing in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next on the agenda is a Citizen Water Advisory Committee. And that is going to be reported by Beth Scully. Sorry about that mispronunciation. It's all yours, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, so the last Citizens Advisory Committee was last Wednesday, and we had 2 presentations. One was the annual water report checkbook by Chad Lepora, and then we had a water service area policy review, Michael Moriala, engineering manager. So the water checkbook is an annual update to the Citizens Advisory Committee. It's typically a month or 2 after we send our reports into AWR for the water use and withdrawal report. So I could give you just a few highlights. I don't want to give you the whole presentation, but so for 2023, our total water production was 113,344 acre feet. Potable production 1,490 acre feet, and that's a decrease compared to, every year we have more people added to our service area, but our demands are going down, which is what everyone else is seeing in wastewater also. So out of that total water production, 87% was Colorado River water, 7% was remediated groundwater, and 6% was recycled water. But if you add that recycled water and remediated groundwater, that's 13%, and that's typically balances out. So our end of the year long-term storage balance, because we always have our balance for how much we have in storage at our recharge, right? So for our CA Colorado River supply, we have 541,609 acre feet in storage. And for recycled water, we have just under 40,000 acre feet. And last year for our CAP balance, it decreased a little bit, and that was because we left 50,000 acre feet up in Lake Mead for the benefit of the lake, and we had to dip into a little bit of our long-term storage credits. Another interesting topic that came up with the water checkbook is our calculation of rainwater capture offset. And so, as you know, we have a rebate program, and you know, it's really difficult to calculate what that offset is. And so they've come up with a method, and what they do is they assume 5 large rain events a year, so that the tank fills 5 times a year, and then we know how many rebates. And so using that calculation from 2012 to 2023, the offset for using potable water for outdoor use was 467 acre feet. They revamped the program July in 2023. And so now what they're looking at is a system must capture at least 1 inch rainfall event. Both a passive and active system gets $1 per gallon. So if you have a 400 gallon tank, then your rebate would be $400. And now staff is also performing a post-install site visit, which is so important because sometimes people go into this and they really want to do the right thing, but then they don't know how to maintenance it. So it's good to have people go out and recheck and make sure everything's running right, because what goes wrong the first year will probably continue to go wrong. And if they can capture that, then that's good. So for the service area policy review, Michael Morial kind of went through the history of our policy for our water service area for new connections. And then he went into how many were approved and denied for 2023. And so some of the highlights of that, the total reviewed last year were 257. 157 residential were approved and 60 commercial applications were approved. 24 residential were denied and 4 commercial were denied. And out of that approval rate, 93 were from the city of Tucson, 119 were unincorporated, 13 from Marina, 1 for Royal Valley, and 0 for South Tucson. And so he also went over some of the reasons for denials, which include outside the service area, and that if you don't meet the service area policy. And so that policy is if the parcel has less than 3 adjacent sites currently served by Tucson Water, then it's going to be denied. It's also, there's an area requirement. And so if you have less than 20 acres developable land for residential, you must have less than that in order to be approved. And then for commercial, it's less than 50 acres of developable land. You also have to, if you're in the service area of another municipality, you're going to be denied. And if you're in the service area of another water provider, you'll be denied. And that about wraps up what all went on. If anybody has any other questions.
Thank you very much, Beth. Does anybody have any questions for Beth on the CWAC? Okay, seeing and hearing none. Next on thank you, Beth, for that. Next on the agenda is the future agenda items. Does anybody have any comments or anything to talk about the future? Okay, hearing and seeing none, then we resort to call to the audience. Anything into the call of the audience comments?
Go ahead, Asia.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, I was a little slow getting into the agenda items. I was just, based on the discussions we had today, I think we do typically get some presentations on condition assessment and that there might be something like that coming up through the, already on our agenda, but if not, then I wanted to suggest we have that. That's all.
What do you mean by condition assessment,
Oh,
Asia?
I'm sorry, we were talking about the 48-inch failure and things like that. So just we do typically, I think, get some presentations related to the manhole assessments and things like that happen through the year, and how the department goes about creating its the plans and does inspections of facilities. So maybe Jackson can can let me know if we do already have that on the agenda, or if you know. Yeah.
We have the treatment update scheduled for August. We have the conveyance update scheduled for September. And I believe those encapsulate what your question is.
Yes. Exactly. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Asia. Appreciate that addition. Any other comments? Okay, then I would like to advise everybody that the next meeting will be on Thursday, June 27. It's going to be going over director updates, compliance and regulatory affair office update, PFAS in the biosolids, election of officers, nomination and voting procedure, and the fiscal year 23-24 budget expense revenue summary for period 11. Okay, I would like to give a personal thanks to everyone that showed up here in person, because this is the greatest showing that I feel like we're getting back to the good old days. I am very happy to have everybody show up. I would invite everybody that's still online. Come on down. We got great breakfast burritos done by Jackson here. And we'd just like to fill up these chairs. Rob, you had an additional question?
Yeah, I'm not going to show up in person, and you don't want me because I have COVID.
Oh, well, that's not going to last forever, though. Okay, very good. If there isn't any other additional questions, I'd like to call for motion. Thank you. A motion for adjournment. Do I have one? Okay, we're going to stay here all day unless somebody comes
I'll
up.
make a motion to
I'll move to
adjourn.
Okay, now
Second. I'll second. Okay.
and we have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Very good. Thank you.
And abstains. And we better hurry up because Jackson's getting into the breakfast foods. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. And we hope to see you soon, Rob. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thank you all.
Feel well. Bye.
Yes, up to talk.
All righty. Can I hold on to this?